And let me just get my notes back in front of me. All right, so now here we are, really ready to start. I guess you two are either newer additions or had missed the previous training. So just gonna do our core vital, aka intelligence and risk training here. And there will be another training, I believe, kind of introducing us to the land workflow that Clay Plager-Unger from the kind of land side of the support team will be leading, and that will be scheduled for a future date. But just hopping into it here, so you may be asking yourself, what is Radian/Green IT? And basically, this is a web application which is delivered by Radian Digital. It's been established as the system of truth for Naturgy Candela contractual compliance, land management, and landowner payments. Systems for our review today will be the user interface, navigation, vitals, which has been rebranded as intelligence. And I will probably use kind of varying terms for that as I get used to saying intelligence. Also, risk management and milestones. So who is Radian? We are an independent service provider focused exclusively on the clean energy
Rob?
industry. Yes?
Rob? Yeah, can you increase your volume a bit? I cannot hear you.
Oh, I'm
though
sorry.
my volume is max.
Yeah, sorry. Let me just get resituated here for a moment. Give me a second.
I can hear you pretty well on my end.
Okay.
So well, my volume seems to be maxed out and still I cannot hear them.
Yeah, let me get my headphones set up. Sorry, I got a new pair of headphones in the mail this morning, so I'm just pulling them out of the package here, and then I shall be louder for everyone. All right. That's not how that works, is it? Yes, okay, there we go. All right. Am I sounding better, Shubi?
Oh, no. I think it's something on my end.
Yeah, I would assume so. Yeah, huh.
I think you can continue. I'll see. I can hear you, yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Alrighty, so just back into my spiel here. So Radian Digital is an independent service provider focused exclusively on the clean energy industry. We help owners, operators, and developers with a wide range of services, including software, automation, asset management, regulatory compliance, and cybersecurity. Radian and Green IT contracted with Naturgy in, I believe, 2022 or maybe 2023, and we're now delivering the production system and providing training on initial deliverables. Today, we are going to focus on our 101 training covering core, vitals, risk management. And in this session, we'll review data structure, features, and responsibilities. So back to the basics here. GreenDesk is a web application. We use a standard browser. Generally, we recommend using Google Chrome. This is hosted on Amazon Web Services. And the Green IT platform is built upon a role-based workspace. Basically, that means each user is assigned a role, and each role is assigned specific permissions, enabling read-write access across the software, which basically means permissions are assigned on a user role basis rather than an individual basis. So individuals have roles, and those roles have various permissions. So that's the end of my little kind of canned spiel here, and I will get into the user interface and showing you guys how to use the application. So starting on the global map here, this is the landing page for the application. When you are initially logging in, generally you'll be going to this page unless you have another URL specifically entered in your bar up here. And yeah, this is generally going to be your landing page. And the first thing you generally want to do when you receive your credentials is to reset your password. We kind of give you guys a somewhat generic password and request that you change it to something that is memorable to you and also secure. So the way you would change that is clicking on your name up here in the upper right. You'll see this on every page throughout the application. It will say your name instead of my name. Realizing I never introduced myself. Sorry, my name is Rob Kopke, and I'm the Director of Application Support and Integration here at Radian Digital. But clicking on your name, and you will see kind of less options than I have here. And that's kind of going to be the case throughout this training. I am a super user, so I'm going to see some things that you don't see. So if my page looks a little different than yours, that is okay. That's kind of expected. But if I'm talking about something on this training that you don't see, like one of the subjects that we bring up here, you don't see, definitely call that out to me and we could take a look. But basically, on this page, you're just going to see your username, new password, and re-enter password. These other items are going to be disabled for you. But you could just either, if you want to change your username or change your password, you could do so from the screen by entering it in these fields and hitting submit. So going back to the map, we also have this little handshake icon up here in the upper right. Again, this will be on every page throughout the application, and it's called My Compliance. You can see that when you mouse over it. I'm going to click on it, and I'm not going to see very much here because I don't have any items assigned to myself. But if you were assigned compliance items, if you're the assignee, you're going to see all past due items in a table here. And then you're going to see anything that is upcoming within, I believe, 60 days. So there's a good place to look just to, when you check in the morning and look for anything that's assigned to you. You could come in here and see all the items that are assigned, see if you have anything past due, see if you have anything upcoming. The way that the alerts are going to be set up for Naturgy is you'll receive an alert for items that are upcoming. I believe it's day of 3 days, 6 days, and 12 days. I might be off on that, but items that are recurring within that amount of days, and then anything past due. There is a separate alert that gets escalated. So if you're a day late on an item, it gets you get an alert about that. And then I believe it's on the third day, it gets escalated to your supervisor, and then escalations kind of ensue beyond that every other day when that an item is overdue. So good to mark items complete once they come due to avoid alerts kind of getting sent up the chain here. And I'll talk a little bit more about what past due compliance means as we get a little further into this training. And there's also the log out option up here. You could click this to log out of the application when you're not using it. Other things that exist here are or I guess next thing I'm going to show you is how to navigate to a project. And there's a couple different ways of doing this. So just to be complete, I'll show you all of them. First option is that you see all these pins on the map. If you're very, I guess, kind of more familiar with the location of a project than its name, you'd be able to click on one of these. And you could click on the little image that shows at the bottom here, and that would direct you to the project. Right here, I'm in the all resources section. So this is showing me all of the projects that you guys have. And then you could go to operational solar, construction, or development, see projects of those statuses. Similarly, we have the grid here. So instead of seeing those projects in a map interface, you'd be seeing them in a grid interface. Grid is pretty good because the map, you can see, requires latitude and longitude in the project to be entered in the project admin for the pin to show up, but the grid will show you things that don't have a latitude and longitude associated with them. So that's one way to navigate to projects, and this is also filtered in these various tabs to see basically what the project's facility type and status are. But the way that you'll most likely be navigating between projects is going to be via the portfolio nav up here. The map and grid that I was just showing you are only available on the landing page here, but the portfolio, similar to the items I showed you over here, is going to be available in all pages that you could land on in the application. So most likely you'll be using this to navigate between projects. And basically looks like you guys only have solar projects currently, so that is the only option here. If you had, wind or battery projects, there would be new little sections as well to fly out for those. And looking at your list here, we have a variety of projects, and you could just click on the project name to select it. You could also type, so if I wanted to look for Carl Flats, I could type in CO, and it'll filter my list, so I could just see that project. I am going to actually create a new project for this training. So I'm just going to go over to the project admin, and this is something that you may or may not have access to depending on your role, but I'm just going to add a project. Just pop in the required fields here really quickly. And boom. So now I have created this project. If I want to find it, I would need to remember what I typed, so I'll just do that in here. And yes, now I'm navigating to the project. And so it's demo Radian. So the way that you would get here would be selecting demo Radian right here, and that would take you to the project. So now we are in the project, and basically everything we see in here is going to be specific to the project that we are looking at. One thing you'll notice here is up top we have this category nav, and this shows kind of various categories that exist in the project. These are specified by Naturgy. There's been some back and forth in deciding which categories we need here. We can modify these or add or delete from this list as needed. So if you ever want to change anything here, you could kind of have a conversation with the rest of your team and decide what needs to happen there. But yeah, the category nav is going to be consistent throughout projects. So you're going to see this in all the projects you're in. And basically these are different, I guess, kind of concepts within the workflow of a project. So we have acquisition, land, interconnect, etc. Right now we're in the project overview. Generally, the project overview is considered to be kind of a roll-up of the other categories. I'll get into that concept a little bit later, but in these other categories, you're going to see similar tabs. Land is a little different. It's got a lot more tabs, but in all these categories, you'll see similar tabs to what you see in the project overview. So let me just sorry, 1 second. I'm gonna start out here with compliance. Compliance we sometimes call risk. Names are kind of interchangeable. I think there will be a rebrand to have this be called risk in the application at some point in the near future. But just keep in mind that those terms are interchangeable. So basically, these compliance items are representative of a contractual obligation. So generally, you guys have some agreements, and they're either abstracted by your team or by our data integration team here at Radian Digital. And that process basically consists of looking through the agreement and kind of picking out scheduled items and adding a schedule for them so that they could reoccur based on some schedule, and also have an assignee and relevant details that you would need in order to complete those items. Compliance items are category related. So basically in the project overview, you can't really add compliance or associate it with the project overview. That is a kind of roll up of the other categories. But in other categories, such as like interconnect over here, I do have the add new button, so I'm able to add compliance to these to this category. Basically any category other than project overview you can associate compliance with. Some of you may not have this add new button. It's kind of more of an escalated function. Most users are only able to complete or reassign existing compliance items, but then some escalated users are able to add new compliance items. So how to add and edit compliance items. I am going to show you guys how to do this. Generally, compliance items are added to the system via an import from our data integration team, and not necessarily something that you guys would be as involved in. And adding them manually via the add new button over here, not likely to be something that you specifically would be doing, but or have the access to do. But I do feel like this is a good way of kind of oh boy, what did I do? Sorry. Sorry about that. You guys still there?
Yes.
I think you are. Okay, sorry about that. I hit a button. Yeah, not something that I necessarily would expect you guys to be doing, but it is a good way of kind of illustrating the different fields in a compliance item and kind of explaining them. Generally, compliance items are added via an import, and we only use the add new for kind of one-off items or kind of off-the-cuff type of things, but our bulk of the compliance items are added via import. So prerequisite for adding a compliance item is to have a matrix group and or file. So we have this blue gears icon that you see when you're in a project on any page. And I just clicked on this file icon in here, and that popped open this little window. And from here, I can see I've got this folder that's called Radian Digital Matrix. It is not populated with anything, but I could click this plus icon over here and add from kind of this predetermined list of folders. So I'm just going to do co-tenancy agreement because that's the first one, and click add new. We can add or remove options from this drop down. So just let us know if that needs to happen at any point. So now I have added the co-tenancy agreement folder here as a subfolder to the Radian Digital Matrix in the interconnect category. And this is a folder. We also call it a matrix folder or a matrix group. And basically, this kind of is something that the compliance items are associated to. Once you guys have an external file system set up, there's this plus will serve to kind of be a file picker within your external file system where you can select the agreement file that the compliance items would be associated to. In advance of that, you can use this plus or this up icon to upload from your desktop. But basically, I'm just going to have this associated at the group level, but just know that there can be a file level under the group. So I've got my group that is a requirement to create compliance, and then the other requirement is that I have a term in the group. So this calendar icon says edit terms when I mouse over it, and I'm just going to click on it. And from here, we are able to enter our term information. So we have a place to enter effective date and term duration and end date. Generally, you just want to put in the date and the duration, and the end date will be calculated for you. So I'm just going to have this term start on the 26th of November, and I will enter a 100 month term, click out of here, and now we've got our end date. And I'm going to go ahead and click submit. Now that's a requirement in order to add a compliance item, or at least the requirement to change the status of a compliance item from draft. And basically that's because most compliance items, unless they have a manually entered term, are going to be beholden to the end date. And also some compliance items could be scheduled off the effective date. So it's really kind of required in order for the compliance item to know what to do when it's recurring. That's why it's kind of a requirement to change the status. So with that, I am able to pop over here and click the Add New button. Yeah, now we're in the basic tab of the new compliance form. And this group dropdown, I can select the group that I added, the matrix group, aka folder. If I had a file in that folder, I would have another dropdown that showed up here in which to select the file. And the term information that's going to be used for this compliance item can either be associated to the group or the file. So if I had a file selected here, it would use the term information for the file. If I just have a group selected, it's using the term information that's associated to the group. Down here, we have our assignee dropdown. You'll notice that there is kind of an empty group up here called user roles, which I'll get into later, but a good thing to notice for now. And then also we have this users list, which has a list of users that exist in the system. I'm going to just select myself here. And basically, this represents the assignee of the compliance item. So this is the person basically who is responsible for marking this compliance item complete. If the item goes past due, then you're going to be receiving alerts noting that it is past due. You may or not be the person who's actually completing the item in real life, but you are responsible for changing the status to complete once the item comes due. Contractual and verified obligation. These are just yes, no's. Basically, it's like, is this contractual obligation? Does it need to be verified? And they're just yes, no's, but these don't really tie into any other functionality. It's just kind of a selection that is available for your records that can be referred back to. Budget. Yes or no. If you select yes, you can enter an amount here. And basically, it just kind of records that in the compliance item. It doesn't really tie into any other functionality. It's just there for your records when you're reviewing the compliance item. I'm just going to go ahead and select no for this one because kind of a less used field in my experience. We also have the payment dropdown over here. Options are no, yes standard, and yes manual. So no means that it is not a payment. Yes standard means that it's a standard payment, which means you can enter an amount here, you can enter an escalator percentage, and basically based on the schedule, which we're going to add over here, say this is a monthly item, it would have $100 due every month, and that will escalate at 2% every month. If it was yearly payment, it'd be $100 every year with the 2% escalator. So that's how standard payments work. And then we have our yes manual option over here. And this is good for kind of more oddball scenarios. So with this option, you can add several payments. You can enter a date and an amount. Oops, what did I just do? I just closed that, sorry. Get back to where we were. Fat finger and things today, my apologies. And yeah, so you can enter dates, you can enter amounts, and this is good for if something either doesn't comply to any sort of logical schedule. You know, it's not monthly, it's not bi-monthly, it's not yearly. It's one thing is due on the 28th, and the next is due on the 2nd, and there's no real rhyme or reason to it. If you have some sort of situation like that, manual payment would be advisable. Also, it's good if the escalation is not really easily calculated. So if this one was 10, this one was 67, you know, you could kind of have like an either odd date recurrence or odd amount escalation kind of accounted for using yes manual. I'm going to proceed as if this is not a payment, just to kind of keep things a little simpler, and move down to the next drop down here. So we have the revenue drop down. This is also yes or no. And revenue is the opposite of a payment. So a payment would be that Naturgy is paying the recipient, which means generally it would be, maybe you have some sort of lease, you're leasing land from somebody and you have to give them money. That would be like kind of a payment setup. And then revenue is somebody is paying you money. So it's the recipient of this compliance item would be paying probably not the assignee, but Naturgy or Candela for something. So if you had yes selected here, that would mean that it was a revenue item. And then responsible party, we have Naturgy, contractor, or both. Basically, that means who is actually responsible for doing said thing that this compliance item represents. Again, not really tied up in any functionality. It just kind of is something that is available for you to see in this compliance item. Required validation file. If this is checked, it means that in order to mark the item complete, you're going to have to select a file to associate with it. So when you're marking the item complete, it's going to ask you for a file and a date, and you'll have to provide those before you could submit. In general, if that's not selected, you just have to add a date and submit. Since you guys don't have your external file system set up, I'd kind of caution against using this for the moment, but that is an option that exists there. And I'm going to go ahead and click Save and Next. Now we have our Schedule tab. So by default, this is going to say no schedule, and you're going to want to select Schedule Required. And from here, you can kind of schedule your compliance item. So there's this due when dropdown, and there's a bunch of different options in here. So you've got effective date, which is the date that you had entered over here for the matrix group. You can schedule items to start based on that date. And then there's kind of various other milestones that exist in our milestone manager, which I'll get into shortly. I'm going to schedule this for the COD expected milestone, and that will be when it starts its recurrence. This milestone has not been triggered yet, so the item's not going to recur once I finish my inputs and mark it active, but it will recur once I trigger the milestone. So I'll show you that a little later in the demo here. Next, we have plus minus days. It's just kind of a way of fine tuning the date that the compliance item is due. So say you have something that's due on COD expected date, but you want to have kind of 10 days of wiggle room. You want to start 10 days earlier. So you could put minus 10 in here. Oops, sorry, I didn't hit the minus good. And that would have the item be due 10 days before the COD expected date. If I remove the minus, it's 10 days after the expected date. Just kind of a way to give you a little wiggle room with the date of the item. Not a required field, so I'm going to leave it blank. And then recurrence, this drop down here is where you would schedule the recurrence of the item. A lot of these are fairly kind of common terms like weekly, monthly, or bi-monthly, etc. And then we have a couple of kind of vocabulary words here for items that recur, every 6, 7, 8 years, etc. Daily, we generally like to avoid. If there's something that you have to do every day, it's generally kind of best to just remember to do it. It could get a little noisy if you use the daily option, especially if something is due for, say 100 months or something. And then we've got basically these options are repeated down here at the bottom with the appended milestone anniversary. So the difference between those two is, say, if you have a monthly item, an item that's due with a monthly scheduler, and it's associated to a milestone that's triggered for, say, the 10th of the month, that means the first item will be due on the 1st of the month, and then the 10th of the month, and then all subsequent items would be due on the 1st of the month. So it first item uses the configured start date, and then all subsequent items are the 1st of the month, or say it's annual, it'd be the 1st of the year. So it's basically just pushes everything to the 1st for every subsequent recurrence. Whereas the milestone anniversary, using my example, is something that's has a milestone triggered for the 10th of the month. Every recurrence would be the 10th of the month. So it's the milestone anniversary date. Similarly, if it was like October 10th was selected, it would be October 10th every year, as opposed to October 10th, and then the subsequent recurrences being due on the 1st of the year. So that's a bit about our various recurrence options. I'm going to go ahead and select monthly for this one. That seems to be kind of a common option there, and move along. Next, we have recurrence recalculate. This is a bit of a strange one that kind of tends to cause some confusion and is not frequently used. If this is checked, it means that subsequent recurrences are calculated based on the completed date of the previous recurrence. And what does that mean? It means that if I have an item that's due on the 1st of the month, it takes me a little while to complete it. I mark it complete on the 5th of the month. It's going to recalculate every subsequent item to be due on the 5th of the month. So basically, it's looking at when you marked something complete and then basing its recurrence of subsequent items off of that date. I'm going to leave that deselected for the purposes of this training. And next option we have here is repeat all. You'll also see a frequency input below it. And basically repeat all means that the item recurs for the entire term that you had entered in the blue gears icon for the file over here, or the folder. So I put in 100 from towards the end of November. That means that this item will recur for the next 100 months until the end of term date that I have in there. Alternately, you can enter a frequency. So if you wanted to only recur 20 times, you could pop that in there, and the item would only recur the amount of times that you have selected. But if you have complete or repeat all selected, you're going to lose the frequency input. So it's kind of either one or the other there. I'm going to select repeat all because that is kind of the more commonly used option here, and move on to milestone end. And milestone end is a way of calculating the end date. So we have our do when, which is the milestone start date, and then milestone end you can use to select the end date. Generally, you'll want to have repeat all selected when you're doing this, and basically until the end date milestone is triggered, it's going to go for the entire term. And then if you select a milestone here and trigger it, it's going to kind of truncate the recurrence so that it only recurs till the date of the milestone, the triggered milestone that's selected here. Similarly, you have plus minus days where you can kind of add a little wiggle room to the milestone end date. I'm just going to leave those blank for the purposes of this training, and I'm going to click Save and Next. Now on this page, we've got our phase selection. This isn't really used in any other functionality, just a place where you can kind of select a phase of the workflow that your item is associated to. And also you've got your reference section, description, and task trigger. So basically the reference section is generally kind of a reference to a place in the agreement where this item is called out. So it's kind of where in the agreement it's telling you to do this thing. The description is basically kind of a description of what you need to do. So generally, this should be kind of detailed enough so that the assignee knows what they are marking complete. And then the task trigger, I'm going to say COD expected. And basically, this is what needs to happen for this item to be actionable. So these are all very helpful to the assignee when they are looking at the compliance item and trying to determine its level of completion. We have permitting type, where there are various options. Again, that's not really used in any other functionality. It's just kind of available for record keeping. And then tag and index, you guys are not going to see. Those should be hidden from your users. And with that, I will click Save and Next. So now we have a couple other options here. We're on the Delivery tab. And I'm just going to show you recipients first. So you can add a recipient. Basically, you can type in a couple of letters of their name and pick a corresponding recipient. Basically, the other party that the external party that the compliance item deals with. There's also a way in this distribution list section where you can have multiple recipients. So if there is an item that requires that, I'd say touch base with us, and we could add a new distribution list for you. And there's the delivery instructions. So this is kind of like a list of common ways in which a compliance item would be delivered. It could be email if you're old timey, you could do a fax. There's many other options here. I'm just going to select email, and then you can add some additional details. So you can say CC Mike, and Mike will get the CC when the when the assignee completes this item, and then you can go ahead and click save. Generally, you could click save and close at this point, but I'll just click save to show you what happens. When you click save, you're on this history tab, so you can see basically anything that's happened with this specific item. You can see everything that was entered and by whom. There's also a comments tab where you can click add note and say hello, or whatever other note you'd want to add there. And then there's a files tab where basically you could use the add note function to add notes and files, but there's also a files tab. So I could say file, and then just add a file from my desktop and upload it, and that will be available to other people who are looking at the compliance item. But basically with the delivery section, my entries are done here, and I'm able to select the status of the compliance item. So draft status items do not recur. You can go in them and edit anything. There's no fields that are locked. And basically, it's not an actionable item until it achieves active status. So I'm going to select active here, and I'm going to click update. And now this compliance item is active, but it is not scheduled. So you can see here the status is active. And the scheduler column here, it shows it's scheduled based on the COD expected date, but there's not a date showing up. So this item doesn't really know when it's due yet. It's just kind of sitting here waiting for somebody to trigger the COD expected milestone. By default, these compliance filters that exist, or the compliance table has a default filter on it that only shows active and scheduled items. So if I clear my filter, I'm not going to see this item because it's active, but it's not scheduled yet. In order to make it scheduled, I'm going to want to go over to the milestone section of Blue Gears here. I'm mousing over it. I see the term compliance milestones. I'm just going to click on that. So scrolling through here, we see excuse me, our COD expected milestone, and it has a little yellow dot next to it. That yellow dot means that the item is, or the milestone has compliance items associated to it, but they're not scheduled yet because the compliant or the milestone is not triggered. You're only going to see this next to untriggered milestones, and basically they're telling you that if you go in and trigger it, it's going to cause compliance items to become scheduled and recur. A little more about milestones. Basically, these are kind of key dates within the workflow of the renewable energy project, and these are kind of added to the specification of the client, in this case being Naturgy Candela. So we worked with some folks on your team, and they kind of came up with this list as representing dates that items would be scheduled based upon. This one is the COD expected date. And when I go in and trigger this, it's going to cause the compliance item to recur. So I'm popping in here, and I'm just going to trigger it for, let's say, the 8th of the month, and hitting trigger. And as I do that, it's going to pinwheel for a moment while it kind of brings my compliance items to life here, and then it will eventually stop. And now we see that the date that I entered is saved, and also we see this little green dot now, which means that there are active and scheduled items associated to this milestone, and if we were to on-trigger it, it would on-schedule those items. So they would not be having dates and recurring anymore if I were to on-trigger it. So it's good to look at. And again, not everybody has access to trigger and on-trigger milestones. This is definitely an escalated function, as these triggers are pretty powerful in scheduling compliance items. But if you were somebody who had that access, you'd always want to look to see if there was a dot next to your milestone when you were triggering and or on-triggering it. So I'm going to close this out now and look at the compliance items that I created. So now I've got recurring items. The first one is due on the 8th. The next ones are due on the 1st of the subsequent months, because I used monthly option and not the monthly milestone, or the monthly milestone anniversary option, which would have them all due on the 8th of the month. Getting into a little bit more about milestones and how they work. So the COD milestone is a dual state milestone, which means it's an expected and actual pair. And you'll see a couple of milestones like this, like PPA COD, financing agreement FNTP. And basically the way to quickly kind of determine if something is dual state is whether it's got the appended expected and actual in parentheses after it. And then there's some single state ones like regulatory COD that don't have the actual and expected pair. And the difference between these is that it's kind of been determined that these need to have an expected and actual date. What that means is that there's kind of a date that you expect the item to the milestone to take place. Say it's like a construction milestone, and contractors can always end up pushing things back a little bit. So you have your date that you think something's going to happen, and that's kind of subject to change, but that is the date that you have for now. And you can always pop in and change that date. And then there's the actual date, which is the date that, in my example, construction took place. So that date's kind of more set in stone. So the expected date can be a little wiggly, it can be subject to change, but the actual date is kind of assumed not to be something that's going to change. Functionality-wise, the way that we interpret this is if an item is associated to the expected date, such as the item that I had scheduled for this demo, you trigger the expected date milestone, and the item will recur based upon that date. And then if you subsequently trigger the actual milestone, any items that were associated to expected will become associated to the actual milestone. So I'm going to demonstrate that for you now. So we have expected triggered. I'm going to pop in here and trigger actual. I'll do that for the 14th. And I'm going to hit my trigger button here and wait for that to complete. And I think I actually have to do a refresh, but once I did, you would see the green dot move from expected to actual, meaning that the items are now associated to COD actual. And if you were to on-trigger that, that would result in the items becoming unscheduled. So looking back at the compliance items here, we see that they're now scheduled for COD actual. And the first one is for the 14th, which is the date that I entered for the actual milestone. Getting into how basically what most users are actually going to be doing with these compliance items, and that is marking items complete. So I'm just going to do a quick refresh here. Yes, and now you can see a couple things. There's this red X at the top in the interconnection category, and that means that you have a past due item in the interconnection category. You can also see the active item at the top here that's due on the 14th has a red dot next to it. And that means that that item is past due. The 14th is in the past. And then for these ones that have the yellow dot, that means that these are upcoming in the near future. So I believe it's a 60-day window where you're going to see these yellow dots. And then everything after that is kind of farther in the future, kind of less pressing, so we don't have any sort of little icons next to them. So I am the assignee here. I'm looking at my items. I see that this one is in the past. I say, uh-oh, I need to look at that because it's past due. And then I confirm that this thing was done. And I'm ready to mark the item complete. So the way that I would do that is just going to the compliance status row and selecting complete here. It's going to populate a date, and I would click go. The other way of doing that would be to click into the item. So just opening the window, and you'd be able to select the complete option over here. Again, you can enter the date and hit submit. And either one of those would result in the item being marked complete. Now, most users, basically any user who doesn't have the add new button here, is only going to be able to complete items that they are the assignee for. So if somebody else was the assignee for this item, I would not be able to mark it complete. And just doing a refresh here, or actually, I guess actually rather, yeah, doing a refresh. I can see from my default sort, the complete item is not included there. It's only showing active and scheduled items, as I alluded to before. But yeah, the other thing that most users might need to do and definitely have the access to do would be to change the assignee. So again, this is most users will only be able to reassign items that are assigned to them. But to do so, you'd click into it, and then you're able to select somebody else for the assignee. Changing the status, changing the assignee, you can do for an item that's at active status. There's no need to go to draft first, and many users are not going to be able to change the status to draft anyway. You could also can't change the scheduler at active status, but you can change the reference section, etc. But many fields are locked at active status. I'm going to let's see, move into the compliance filter now. So I've gotten into the default filtering, but we also have a filter that we can use to filter for compliance items. And basically, this has a whole bunch of different options that you could use to filter items. You could do it by category or group from over here in the blue gears. And you also have a status and type multi-selects here. Generally, if I want to see absolutely every item that is in this demo project's interconnect category, I'm going to select all these options, and I'm going to go ahead and hit save. And now I could see my complete item. If I had unscheduled items, I would be able to see them as well. And there's a whole bunch of other options here. You can search by assignee. You could type in the recipient name. You can use these options here to look at a kind of time frame. So you can use a start date and an end date, and look at compliance items that are due within that range. Also for items with payments or revenue. And yeah, there's many other options here. These ones are more kind of land oriented, so not as involved with these contractual compliance items. But yeah, many options in the filter here. You'll also see that I'm an interconnect now. I see these items. If I go over to permitting, I'm not going to see these items because they're associated with interconnect. If there were permitting items here, I would see them. If I go over to project overview, I can see the items that are associated with interconnect because the project overview is a roll up. If I had items in permitting as well, I would also see them here. And the filter for project overview, if there was permitting items, for example, I would see permitting and the name of the group here. So I'd be able to search through all of the different categories in the project overview. There's also the compliance manager up here in the asset management nav, and you could use this to look at items across the portfolio. So if I were to select a group of projects over here and hit submit, I could kind of interrogate across the portfolio and see items that exist. This kind of global compliance does not have a default filter applied to it, just because all active and scheduled items could be quite a long list. So we make you kind of build your filter in order to search from there. So going back to the project, a couple more things I want to show you here as we run a little short on time. We have team roles, which remember when I was showing you the compliance items, the signee dropdown, I said that there was a team role section there. Basically, that is not populated unless you have individuals selected for these team roles, just because we want to make sure that items are actually associated to somebody. But you can select an individual for one of these team roles. And then if I were to create a compliance item now, I would see project manager as an option there. And basically what this does is, say you have a lot of turnover in this project, and maybe you need to switch project manager or asset manager pretty frequently, you could easily pop into here and make a change to the individual who's selected. And that would basically make it easy to change all the assignments. If things are assigned to individuals, it's kind of more of a manual task to reassign, or you could get with me or the support team, and we could do a database query to reassign things. But it's really much easier to do so via the team role option. So that's basically compliance and team roles, and I'm going to quickly get into vitals. Let's see how you guys are with your usage of vitals, or aka intelligence. Yeah, so it looks like you have a couple of these, not too many. So I'll be pretty quick with this. Basically, you have this category or this tab called intelligence. And we see here several tables. We have a horizontal one and a vertical one. So basically, these tables are kind of simply data points that are configured based on our back and forth with Naturgy and Candela. And these can be kind of modified or added to or removed as necessary. Just get with us and we can handle that. But basically, these are kind of data points. There's a label for every vital. There is a input, and then there's a table within which it resides. And then you can have different vitals or intelligence items for each of the various categories. Vitals can take various forms, so they can be alphanumeric, where you can put in letters and numbers. They can be numeric, where you just can put in numbers. And let's see, it looks like these are all alpha. You can have a drop down and with configurable options. And what else? You can have a query. So this one is looking at the project admin and pulling out the fact that it's a solar project and its state is Alaska. So you can basically use the vitals to look at other data. You can kind of add two numeric vitals together, maybe add a certain amount of dates to a milestone date and have that be a query. Lots of different options with the calculations. So yeah, you have alphanumeric, numeric, currency, percentage. You could have a numeric with a percent sign. I don't see any dates here, but you could have one that would use a date widget. And as mentioned, drop downs and calculations. And basically, this is per Naturgy Candela's design, per the project and group structure of the vitals. The data is sourced from the users, and then it's made available in various reports. So here we're at the project level. We're seeing all of the vitals within the project, and these only relate to this project. If you wanted to interrogate across your portfolio, you could go to the portfolio intelligence over here. And this basically shows you all of the various projects and vitals that are associated to them. You can build reports with this build intelligence report option, and then you can select categories and add vital or intelligence items to them. So you can kind of make a portfolio that kind of works for whatever you're trying to do. And then we can also, when we're building a portfolio, select this create tracker option, and that basically would have the corresponding portfolio option show up in the nav here. So it looks like somebody set one up for team roles. So we could have just basically a nav item for the portfolio preference. And yes, that's basically it. I'm realizing there's one thing I forgot to mention. There can be a notion of dynamic vital categories. So if I wanted to be able to add multiple tables with these same options, there's a way to have a plus sign that appears here. And you could click that and have the table repeat. So say it's like list of inverters. You can have up to 7 inverters, so you could click the plus button as many times as inverters exist. You guys don't currently have any dynamic categories, but that is something that's available. And yeah, just wrapping up with how to contact support. So there's a way to contact us within the application, and that is new requests or my request, either one of these options. I guess my request would be better. But you can type in a request for the support team and select whether it's a bug, data issue, feature request, or a support request. Then hit submit. We'll get an email and be able to help you out. There's also telephone. So in the email that you received, you will see a phone number that you could use to call us and verbally describe any issue that you may be having. And there's also the email address, which is support-greenit@radiangen.com, and that is also available in the email where you got your credentials. Generally, email is kind of preferable as opposed to the in-app ticketing system, just because you can add screenshots in the email as opposed to here where you cannot, and sometimes that is very helpful. So realizing I'm 3 minutes beyond my time here, sorry about that. Any questions for me?
No, I'm good for now. But for future, I will get back to you if I have any.
Wonderful. Yeah. And here at Green IT, we're happy to do lots of hand holding. So if you have any questions, if you want somebody to walk you through something, we're happy to help you out with that. Just let us know.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for your time.
Oh yeah, no problem. Thank you. And yeah, door's always open. Let us know if we can help you with anything.
Okay. Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks.